I call to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. This one. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. So the first thing we need to do would be the approval of the agenda. Anyone? Jim for the first and a second. Thank you. Got it. Sorry, Brian, you're a little late. Let's get a little quicker here as we get into the meeting and get warmed up. So could we have anyone in that opposes the approval? Anyone? Okay, it passes. Now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the February 20th meeting, which was sent out to you. Okay, okay, I got a first and a second over here to the left. All right, so any discussion on the approval minutes, any changes? All opposed, say aye. Hearing no opposed, that passes. Now we have our favorite time of our meeting, which is public comment. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have one today? We have an audience, which is very, very nice to have. So please come up.
Good morning, everybody. Tom Reitz, County Council. Good morning. Most important thing is congrats to all the reappointments here. We appreciate your efforts. You may have heard some rumblings that there's been change in leadership on County Council, and I'm here to tell you that this council is even more in tune with what you want to do, and if there's anything you need, let us know. Mr. Rembold takes the good time to be with us, and he'll be there Monday for our meetings. One of the other good things I want to share with you is that we have a town council member here, Melinda Tunner, and our cooperation over the last several months has been, well, even more than that, stellar. So we're working together. If there's anything you need on behalf of county or town, we're here for you, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Any questions at all for us, town or county? Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Linda, would you like to?
Good morning, I'm Melinda Tunner. I have been appointed the Town of Hilton Head Liaison for the Beaufort County Airport Board, and it was something that I asked for. I felt very passionately that I wanted to be in that role as I represent Ward 6, and Ward 6 is right in the middle of where the airport is located, and I know our residents are always very interested to know what is going on at the airport. So I look forward to learning more about what's happening. I have attended a few meetings in the past, and I'm looking forward to moving together with you. I did have a question, with everything that's going on in Washington, D.C., makes me think about, what kind of impacts there may be to Beaufort County airports in regards to FAA staffing and grant funding. So I know that's a topic of concern, and you may not have an answer for that, but I know that you rely on those grants for the work that you are doing moving forward. Thank you.
And I know that John will bring that up during his director's report. Thank you, and welcome to being the liaison. I think you're going to find this is a fun group. I like almost everyone here. Idea. Well, the one that's not here. One of the ones that's not here. You're here. You're in the circle of trust. Okay, so we'll move on to the director's report. John?
All right, good morning. Used to saying good afternoon, but we have to get used to saying good morning here. All right, let's get into things today. We do have a financial brief today, so I'll try not to take too long getting through here. Just last week, we did adopt a highway again. So when we we purchased several of the properties along Hunter Road a couple of years ago, and we decided it's probably a good idea to adopt that portion of the road. And so every couple of months, our staff gets out there and cleans it up, keeping it looking nice and clean out there and trash-free. You'd be amazed what accumulates over a couple of months out there. It's kind of a light industrial area, so a lot of pickup trucks and things rolling through there, so you do get some trash that rolls out of the truck and blows out. So anyway, we try to keep that looking good. Did have a visit. We talk about these every couple of months. We typically have a group out about every month or two to come and see the airport. And a big tip of the hat to Rocio, who has, she recognized that we get requests fairly frequently for these tours, and she put together a nice program for them. So it's no longer, the situation where a group calls and then you try to put an itinerary together for them. She's got the normal folks who we call and say, hey, can you bring your aircraft here? For example, the sheriff's helicopter is always there, Civil Air Patrol is always there. And then if we get lucky, we'll have somebody up from Hunter Army Airfield with a medical helicopter or something like that. So she's got this nice and program. The students typically get a chance to have a good brief by the ARF crew, get a chance to see how the trucks work. Maybe a few of them get a ride in the truck. And they also get a tour of the tower. So she's done a real good job of putting that together. So it's pretty exciting, and we've had a lot of students come through, and who knows where that leads. It may just plant the seed for someone to, get into aviation and whatever role they choose. There's so many different aspects of aviation. So hopefully we're inspiring some of these young folks to get serious about it and pursue a great career. So hats off to the whole crew. Our ARF team is always wide open for this too, so we appreciate that. And of course, the tower guys who, they're contract employees to the FAA. So they're a private company who do not belong to the airport, and they pitch in and do a great job educating these kids. So we're happy for that. All right, terminal updates. This is great. We'll try to, like I said last month, we'll have to coordinate a good time to get folks out there to take a look at the building. But it's the roof, the final piece of the roof is going on. It's kind of interesting to watch it get built because it kind of goes on in layers like a cake. And the final section, the roof panels will be coming in pretty soon and getting installed. But you can see some of the window framing going in. The ceiling has, not C ceiling, S ceiling has happened around the windows. That's that black sealant you can see there. So that's happened. And on the inside of the building, a lot of the framing, I think it's all nearly complete there. So as you walk through the building, you can see the different spaces taking shape. The offices within the TSA area, you can see where the restrooms would be, the concession area and things like that. So it's really taking shape. And it's pretty exciting. The canopy that you see out front of the existing building in that top center photo is a temporary canopy. So when phase 2 of the building happens, which is renovation and expansion of the existing terminal building, that canopy will actually be removed because that'll be where part of the building is. But for the next couple of years, hopefully not too long, that'll be the canopy out front of the building. It goes right out to the front sidewalk. So there is a nice covered walkway for folks. We've got a little video here too, so hopefully it plays just the way it did in my office. Let's see. There we go. This is Rocio's handiwork too. Wall in front of you is the interface between the new building and the existing building. That'll be removed. And then you turn towards one of the main entrances to the building. There'll be 2 major entrances like this when it's all said and done. And this is outside of what we just month, we're getting a little more technologically savvy with our updates, so, thanks to Rocio, she knows all the tricks there.
Have an office over there?
No,
When's the projected completion?
the projected completion of this phase of the building is next spring, so give or take a year. The reason we're not putting admin spaces in the building is because we wanted to be as cost-effective with the dollars as possible. So this is all mission-driven space. So there will be, the only admin space in there will be TSA, and that's because it's a federal requirement. But all of our admin space will be in other locations, so this is 100% operational space. That was our goal. So we can stand behind the, the funding and all that.
Excuse me, you mentioned phase two. Can you kind of walk us through, or is this inappropriate at this time to ask you the question?
It'll cost you $10 million, and I'll walk you through it.
I'm selling my
that's
house,
about
but
right.
not that much.
Well, phase two will be if you picture the existing terminal, it'll be a full renovation of all that space, and it will be an expansion as well. So if you were to go out to the airport now, and you'll see the entrance that was in the video where you would walk out, that's got the big cantilevered canopy there. If you were to stand at that canopy and look down the line along the existing building, that's how far it'll come out. So it'll be a straight line across. So it bumps that front wall of the existing building out between 25 and 30 feet. So it's going to be a large expansion.
That part, I was talking about your funding, because you.
That's why I asked you for $10 million. Yeah.
I'll do my
We're
best.
working on funding. That's part of my brief coming up, so we'll talk about that a
Okay.
little bit later, but we are working at putting that together. So, and then at the end, you'll see we have a QR code at the very end. If you haven't scanned that yet for the engagement HQ, you can do that, but that'll take you to more of the progress photos that we put up there. Rocio updates it every week, right?
Every month.
Every week-ish. It's updated, so we'll get some new photos up there for you to see. Brian?
John, I may have missed this from the original drawings, but the new terminal's going to have jet bridges, right?
Yes.
In most airports, because of the fact that airline doors are 15 feet or more above the ground, jet bridges usually come out of the second floor, and this is only a one-floor building. So how's that going to work geometrically?
Well, I don't know if you noticed in the video, but as the part where I was walking as if I were leaving the boarding gate area goes down a ramp. So there's a slight ramp from the TSA security checkpoint into the boarding gate area, and then the passenger boarding bridges actually have a slight angle to them as well to go to
Oh, it's gonna
access
go
the
up.
aircraft. So
Got it.
it's very slight. It's got to meet all ADA requirements, of course, but all that has been factored in, so we're able to do it off the single story. Good question, though. All right, anything else on the terminal? All right. All right, now the bullet items, state funding. Rich, this is to your point. I just recently submitted a formal request to the state. I have several informal requests in through Jeff Bradley, who's been kind of our main worker up in Columbia on this issue for us. And the whole delegation got a copy of that request for the phase two funding. So we've requested $15 million from the state. That's what they delivered for the first phase, which was phenomenal. So hopefully they can equal that in the second phase as well. The difference between the first phase and second phase is the second phase will not have FAA funding because I say that we'll still apply for some FAA funding because the recent reauthorization bill from last year made an additional $10 million of discretionary funds available to small non-hub terminal projects. So that's us. So it's potentially out there in writing, but to Ms. Tunner's point, there's a lot of uncertainty with what may or may not happen with the FAA. So in discretionary money will be the pot that has the most uncertainty tied to it. So we have no idea what's going to happen there. We'll apply for it, but that's on the federal level. State-wise, we applied for the $15 million for the terminal, and then I'm also submitting a request for the St. James Baptist Church project this week, and that'll be a $2 million request that we'll put in. So we do that, and we'll talk a little bit more about advocacy and that sort of thing, but Steve and I were up in Columbia last week for the legislative reception, and had a few members attend, but it was a pretty busy day in Columbia, so we didn't have the attendance we really wanted. But, you know, those types of events that the Aviation Association puts on are hugely important. So we're going to try to rope some of you into there. Rich, I know you said that you put that caveat on there, if you think I can make a difference. If you not had said that, I'd have picked you for the team, Rich. You went and ruined it. No, it'll be good. I think that there's a lot of work that we can do, and the way it works up in Columbia, you have to be seen. You have to be seen and you have to be heard from. That's what gets things done. And our delegation is gaining seniority up there. They work very, very hard for us. And luckily, I've got personal relationships with all of them, so it's been pretty effective to be able to chat with them about projects. So we're going to continue to work on that. And again, if you do have relationships with anybody in our delegation, please reach out to them, let them know, that we do have a request in. They may or may not have seen it. They get a lot of emails, but make sure that we reinforce that. And then SEAA newsletter. I always get a bunch of these each season when the Aviation Association puts this out, but I don't know if you all ever see this. I don't know who's a member, who's not a member, but I brought copies, so I'm going to give you all one. So you can pass those around. But what I'll try to do, and I think I mentioned in an email this week, I'm going to try to be a little bit more intentional about forwarding those emails and that information to you folks so you understand what's going on in the state. There's great information in these newsletters, including safety updates and, pilot tips and airport updates and things like that. So it's a good way to kind of just stay up to date with what's going on in aviation in the state, and it'll have a legislative update so you can see what's happening at the State House and whether or not there are bills that need support or need to be knocked down like we did last year. We had a pretty big campaign and we were successful in beating back that legislation. But there's a lot of work that happens up there, so I'll try to keep you in the loop on what's happening there. All right, the legislative reception, I talked about the state legislative reception last week, but I'll be going up to DC on the 27th. And we've done this, I mentioned it to you, it's almost every year that I go up there for just kind of a one-day, I call it speed dating with the staffers. And there's a delegation. I think we'll have just about every airport from Georgia and South Carolina going up as a group to meet with our two state staffers and probably some of the members as well. So we'll have a chance to talk about the federal issues that we have in common and to address some of the uncertainty that's happening now. And frankly, it happens every time you change over administration, but we're just waiting to see what happens with some of that discretionary funding. So that'll be towards the end of this month, and I'll hopefully have a good update for you next month. Board reappointments, we talked about that, so hopefully everybody who got reappointed understands that they got it. I think here, it's everybody except for Rich. I think you're up next year. And I think Nick was reappointed as well. So anyway, congratulations. I don't know if you knew you said yes, but apparently you did. So you're stuck with us for another couple of years, so I hope congratulations are in order. All right, next one, advocacy and committees. I talked about this a little bit in the email I sent out, but we may want to just take a look at the committee structure we have, because we often, have the report that there's no report. So I'd encourage you maybe to look at that structure and say, hey, which committees are obsolete and maybe we need to stand up some new ones. I would put out there to either an advocacy / legislative or, something like that, something along the lines of public policy type. Government affairs.
Government relations, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that way, if we have issues that need a letter to come from the board, that's helpful. You guys have done that from time to time. Or if we need to take some of you to Columbia for a meeting or something like that, it'd be helpful. So just consider that. But one of your primary roles on this board really is advocacy. So once you pick a chair for that committee, if you feel like you're not being fed enough information, get with us at Airport Admin so we can keep you up to date. There's so much that comes at us, sometimes we forget to pass it on because we have to kind of digest it and move on to the next thing. But if you're pulling it from us from time to time, we'll be
Have
able to get
anybody
you
on,
information.
at the state level, are any of our local elected officials on any of the aviation committees at all?
Let's see, I don't think we have anybody this year who's on any of the like transportation subcommittee or anything like that. But that being said, it doesn't always take somebody on that committee to wield the heavy hammer. Bill Herb Kurzman is a pilot as well, so he always stays. He's not, I don't think he's on Ways and Means anymore. I think he's on LCI. But that still is a pretty powerful committee. So Bill is always, we talk a good bit via email to keep up to date on issues. He's been real strong. Shannon's got some good committee positions as well. And Weston always swings a heavy bat too. So, you know, all of our folks, regardless of which committees they're on, they all take up our issues and gather the folks that need to be gathered to understand. So we can do a little bit more work on that front, I think. All right, and then the last one, kind of a happy thing, Philip, not that everything wasn't, but Philip Forward, this is a new deal that the chamber has honchoed. And if you're a big water drinker like I am, they've got a program, and Hilton Head has chosen the Sea Turtle Patrol as the beneficiary of this. So every time I fill this guy up and I scan with my app on that little QR code, $1 gets donated to the Sea Turtle Patrol. So this is something really cool. We're doing it in the airport. We are sponsoring this program, so we'll have all kinds of marketing stuff that goes up in the next few weeks in the airport. So our filling stations in the airport will have this. We're probably going to make containers available in the concessions area for folks to purchase, and maybe the stickers too. If they have their own bottle, you can buy the sticker and pop it on your bottle. I'm a heavy water drinker. In the last 2 days, I think I'm up to like 10 refills. So yeah, so every time you do it, it's $1 that goes in there. So I'm hoping to, if I can do $4 or $5 a day over a year, that's a lot of money that goes to the Sea Turtles. So really cool thing. Just, you can Google Fill It Forward, but it's a neat program. So I think it's pretty worthwhile. Anybody heavy water drinkers? Does anybody carry around their own bottle and do their thing? Anne's shaking her head. You need to drink water?
You're talking about Hilton Head water, right?
I don't know where you get your water. You get it wherever you
I'm
want
not here
to.
judge on Hilton Head versus Beaufort Water.
Mine-
This is not the committee for that.
Mine goes through a filter regardless, okay? But the point is, the point of the whole program is to reduce and hopefully eventually eliminate single-use plastic. Because who knows what happens with that? Most of it's not good. So that's the overall goal of the program.
As somebody that's on the Sea Turtle Patrol Auxiliary, we greatly appreciate the airport supporting, and the hotels in the area also support this too. They've pledged up to $15,000 for this program. That's going to be really helpful.
Who pays the dollar?
It comes from the sponsorships that we've done and all the local organizations. So I know the resorts are in on it and we're on it, but that's where that money comes from. So we pledge some money up front to it, and that, gets us the marketing collateral and things like that. But it's a fantastic kind of joint effort, collaborative effort to educate folks too who visit the area and arrive at the airport about sea turtles. If they see that, and the Sea Turtle Patrol typically has some information in the terminal as well. And we like folks to know kind of the rules of the road when you're on the beach. Not leaving the gear behind, making sure you fill your holes, not having the lights on at night. We all know those rules, but not all the visitors coming from the Midwest know how important and sensitive it is. So makes all the sense in the world to be a partner with that. Yep, if you just do Fill It Forward. And it started way back in 2011. It's been around for a long time. I didn't know it was that old, but it's pretty interesting, and they have global causes. So there's global water missions that are supported by it and things like that. So it's a pretty cool organization, and I think it's really opportune that we're taking part in that. So I saw Rich uses a reusable bottle. Who else does? Anybody else refill their bottles all the time? Tom does? Brian does?
As you get older, you gotta watch out how much you consume.
You gotta watch how much you drink. Yeah, I understand. I understand.
You're way too young to understand.
All right, so any questions for me? Because we're, next guy on the docket here is Brian with the financial update, so trying to think if I had any more notes. Any questions about projects or anything else?
No, I think we can, well, let's talk about a couple of things on, just in case they don't come up during committee meetings. Could we just get an update? So we got a runway shutdown for approximately a week coming up on ARW, which I think was a great job on the communication way ahead of time. Kind of just brief everybody about that, what's happening with that, so the board knows if they get questions from someone.
Yes, thank you. I told you I'd forget, and that's why
Yeah,
I'm bringing it
that's
up,
why I'm
so
here.
Thank you. So the age thing, Tom, it happens at any age. So a couple of projects at Beaufort Executive, the runway first, so that's a rehab project that'll happen. The paving will probably be sometime this summer. We don't have that part of the schedule nailed down yet. But this first phase that'll happen in April is going to be the installation of drainage along the sides of the edges of the runway. So since that's in the runway safety area, we've got to close the facility for them to do that. But again, like you said, we're trying to get the advance notice out there so that all of our tenants understand that, but also so that the folks who fly in on the charters, because it's pretty busy, charter business up there, that they can kind of schedule around that or make other arrangements. So they're going to try to do it as quickly as they can, but it is a necessary part of the project, so that'll happen in April. And then the second project is the hangar site work project. It's almost ready to kick off. It's been a few months, but you folks reviewed and approved the contract to go to Gulfstream Gulfstream Contractors back in probably October. So we're ready to go. We're coordinating with them, and once we get the final permit from the county, then we'll be ready to kick that off. And again, that'll be all the site work for all that hangar complex that we'll build. We won't go vertical with everything right out of the gate, but that'll get the site work done so that we are prepared when we secure funding for the vertical phase.
Any questions? Any other questions for John? Okay.
All right. And
Thank
I
you, John.
think- Let's go. There's your QR code. If you don't have that for Engagement HQ, I might have to move Nick out of the way. I don't know if I can move him. There we go. I can move Nick. We're gonna put Nick there. Should have moved him for the video. Might have stopped it. All right. So this will get you the weekly updates in that. We'll have a little, like I said, the photos and a little bit of a narrative update on what's going on with the project. So that is that. And I think now we're going to transition to the finance report. So Brian, do you remember how to do this?
I'll try.
I'm going to escape out of here, I think. Rocio, get ready.
See if I can figure this out here.
Escape first,
Yep, I got that part.
and then you gotta find it down,
Then I gotta
find it down there,
do.
and then there's yours. Yeah, and then,
What's that duplicate thing?
well, you can do it there, and then here, display, setting, and then duplicate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. This is going to be a presentation of the financials for the first 6 months of the fiscal year. After this date going forward, I hope to do this every quarter, which I think will be good. Basically, what I want to do is go through different line items and see things that popped out at me as far as revenues and expenses, some variances, because this will be a comparison. Sure. This will be a comparison between last year at the same point in time, so we can see what types of variances there are and try to give some explanations for those. This first slide. On this first slide, this is the revenues for the first 6 months ended December 31st, and then there's a comparison between this year and last year. Some of the variances that popped out at me, first of all, cable TV franchises, which I didn't even though those existed at first until I did this. Those are basically, it's charter communications. And I didn't realize that that's actually Spectrum. And the county receives fees from them based on revenues that are generated by the cable company. This variance here for $16,000, these are booked by the county. These are not booked by an accounting staff at the airport. And it's just a timing thing. Eventually, these fees should come through for this fiscal year, so that should even itself out. The town of Hilton Head revenues item for the variance there is around $56,000. Those are Hilton Head A-tax reimbursements. So there hasn't been, we haven't applied for as much A-tax reimbursements thus far this fiscal year. But by the end of the year, that one should also even out. The next items that kind of pop out at us are the ramp fees, increase of $108,000, security fees, increase of $21,000, rents, increase of $118,000. All those increases are associated with increased cost recovery fees from our cost recovery program with the airlines. In other words, this fiscal year, we probably will get around $500,000 more from the airlines via these types of revenues. Lastly, hangar rentals, those are, the increase of $12,000 is basically due to price increases. I don't know if any of you have any questions at this point as far as revenues and any of the variances. Okay, next slide. Okay, here's the expenses for HXD. Now, the one that really popped out at me was payroll and related expenses. That includes salaries plus FICA, those sort of items, group insurance. You see that increase of $164,000 approximately. When I researched that, it turned out to be that is mainly due to a timing of group insurance booking, that we do not book, the county books that. So that variance should diminish. That's basically due to, we have a SCASD grant from the DOT. It's a federal grant used for advertising. We've been paying for more of our advertising out of that grant. So that's a good thing. Let's see this other one, stormwater fees. That's basically property tax, stormwater fees. That's another timing thing with booking. It was booked.
That would be a little late, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Typically November is when we get the stormwater.
I think a lot of it. There's no. I haven't figured out. There's
Let's
no.
make sure we didn't pay a penalty for late payment.
No, it's more of the timing of when it's booked as to when it.
Okay.
Rather, it could sit somewhere before it gets booked. Basically, I hate to say that, but it's true. You'll see utilities went up by $17,000. I'm still researching that one. When I went into the GL and looked at that, Sparklight, Parkway, some of the bookings don't look correct to me, and we don't do those bookings either, and I want to make sure that they are. So I'm researching that, plus we did have a water leak. That's since been fixed. That was a little portion of it, and there's been some rate increases. The Hilton Head PSD, as well as just utilities in general. The next one, professional services, you'll see that went up 71,000, 72,000. That's mainly due to increased fees for Securitas this fiscal year as compared to last year.
For the what?
Securitas, that's our security for the airport. Our outside contractor.
Okay. Oh, that was, okay.
Yes.
I put capital in here in the expenses, but I'm going to remove it in the next slide because I don't believe it should be there. You'll see that increased for $149,000. Those are basically purchases for different equipment that we needed at the airport. We're playing catch up a little bit as far as getting things that we need there. That equipment included some vehicles, AT and vault lighting controls, disabled aircraft tools, an EV charging station, HVAC replacement items such as that. That's what's included in that line item. And local grant match, that is related to SCASD as well. That's the portion that we pay into the SCASD program. Okay, question?
How did you not have depreciation when you got capital equipment?
Depreciation, this was actually a question I was gonna ask the board because I could go either way with it. Depreciation, the county hasn't booked it yet. And they don't book it until the
They
end
won't
of
book
the,
it till the end. Typically,
end of
we
the
don't book
year.
Depreciation till the end of the year.
I
Don't
can,
book it in the middle.
for future reports like this, I can do an estimate because it's pretty easy. It's straight line depreciation and you'd probably see $200,000 in that line item. I can estimate it, but with what I'm showing you right now, I'm going by what's actually booked in the accounting system. So I'm welcome to any suggestions on that if you would like me to estimate depreciation when I,
Looking at a difference too between government accounting versus private sector accounting, you'd never put the capital equipment on there as an
No.
expense. Right. Yeah.
you never would. And basically, to be fair, at the end of the year, when the audit's done and you see the audited financials, they don't have capital equipment in there either. It's booked the way it should be. Any other questions on this expense slide? Okay. And here we come to the bottom line, revenues versus expenses. You'll see we're lower by 232,000 approximately, but then when you add back in capital equipment, the variance gets smaller and there's around an $82,000 difference. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Looks pretty even keel to me, especially when you take into account some of the items such as payroll with the timing of the group insurance booking and the timing differences.
How much was that group insurance booking out of that variable roughly? You know,
I actually thought you might ask that. The group insurance portion was around 70 grand. That portion was, as far as the salaries and wages, that portion, just the salaries, not including FICA, Medicare, retirement, or anything. There was actually, with the timing of this, when the increases in salaries were given by the county and the comp study and these other things, there was actually a 3% raise that was given via the county, and then a $4,000 raise, just a flat raise. Then plus you had the comp study, which increased it all. And the aggregate raises basically were around, across the board, not that each person got one, were around 15%. And that includes new employees as well.
Okay, so that got all booked into December that it normally would have been spread out over a longer period because of when it hit.
Right.
Okay, that would be, okay.
Right. Okay, any more questions on Hilton Head? Let's go. Okay, here's ARW revenues. Let's see what notes I had on that, if there was anything. You'll see avgas purchases or revenues are a little low. They went down 19 grand there. Everything else to me looks pretty even keel. I didn't really see anything that jumped out at me. I don't know if you have any questions on this slide. And the revenues are pretty even at the bottom line there, lower by around $11,000.
How are we down in hangar rentals?
Actually, there's a couple late payments in it that will be caught up as well. Any questions on the revenue side? Okay, next slide. Here's our expense side. And on the expenses, payroll, you'll see that went up by $45,000. We did have a new employee that was added at ARW. It's mainly that, plus in addition, that there are additions in salary there for the comp study as well that the county did. You'll see stormwater utility fees, again, that variance, that's just the timing of the booking of those items. And that should even itself out. Avgas purchases, that popped out at me, that those are down, but so are avgas revenues. So that makes sense. Jet fuel purchases, and Steve, maybe you could help me with this one, 'cause he's the expert at ARW with how the fuel works.
Well, fuel is inventory versus what we're selling. So when these numbers are taken, and specifically at the end of the year, how much inventory we have in the tank can offset what our revenues are gonna be. So I'm not going to instruct those guys to sell down the gas and hold off on purchasing until the last second, because inventory isn't such a big issue at the middle of the year. At the end of the fiscal year, that's when I want the least amount of inventory in the system, so I don't have to show that. You'll see it, we buy gas and then we sell it. If I have gas in inventory, it shows as an expense, but I don't have the revenue to cover it because it's still sitting in the tank. So at the end of the fiscal year, I want less gas in the tank, so the revenues are proportionate to how much we've purchased on the expense side.
So we're saying is, on the jet fuel in 2024, we had $121,000 at the end of the year in inventory of jet fuel,
At the end of December,
at the end of December.
right?
Fiscal year for,
We,
versus, so, yeah. so
correct,
there's
you could say we had
$121,000
$121,000 worth of
inventory.
jet fuel in the tank, it just hasn't sold yet. And that's a good thing, that means we're buying jet fuel because it's selling.
But the question becomes is if you go back and you look at if you look at the revenue side should be what the sale is.
Jet
the cost
fuel
of goods
revenues
sold?
are up.
Yeah, revenue's up, but what I'm saying is where's the cost of goods sold for the fuel that was sold? Because if I got it in inventory, I'm holding it as an inventory item, right? So it doesn't get expensed out until it's sold. But so there should be a cost of goods sold with 120, because we didn't sell 121,000. It's shown as an expense as $121,000.
That's because we have to
It's
buy
really-
it.
Right, but it's really not an expense. What I'm saying is all that revenue, there's not an expense for the fuel that was sold.
What I'm thinking is that's probably why there's a huge inventory adjustment at the end of the year.
Yeah, because if you look at all the revenue, right now, what's it show on a revenue for fuel,
back.
for jet fuel?
Let's see if I can go.
Oh, yeah, it's way higher. It's $198,000, right? So $198,000, are we saying really that the $121,000 is cost of goods sold and we made roughly 70-some thousand on it? So it's not the inventory amount, that's actually what
Yeah,
was
yeah.
sold. That's not what's in inventory.
That's
the
how
cost
much
of goods
sold plus the cost of goods sold.
That's cost of goods sold plus what's in inventory.
Right.
That makes sense to me.
I'm not going to show in words the profit that we made off of it, because you see what I'm saying?
No, right.
Which is what
Well,
you're talking
you're
Yeah.
gonna wanna see it, but you're,
Here's the difference.
it's the difference, but you're showing it as
Right.
part of your, cause you're expensing it when you buy it anyhow. Which,
That's
I mean,
right.
it's 6 of one, half dozen of another.
Yeah.
Just a timing issue. Okay.
Thanks, Steve. I don't know if there are any other questions on the expense side for ARW. So at the end of the day, I not only added in capital equipment, but there's a site development line item that is basically ARPA funded. So I wanted to make an adjustment and put that money back in there as well. When you do that, we are lower by $116,000 this year. And we have, at ARW, from what I understand, been a little aggressive as far as doing repairs and some maintenance line items, plus the increased salary. When you go back and look, if you took, for instance, the increase in payroll of $45,000, I can go back there. Timings of bookings with stormwater utility fees, those types of things, that's another $18,000. Jet fuel purchases up $41,000. Now the capital equipment, I already accounted for that, so that doesn't count. But those line items kind of bring it back up to more of an even keel, not quite there. But typically to the second half of this year, we're expecting there aren't going to be as many maintenance items because we took care of a lot of those. And we're hoping things will catch back up and be about even with what they were last year.
The second half for ARW typically is better than the first half, too. I mean,
Absolutely.
just looking at succession alone, they're not closed, they're closed July, August, part of September.
It is, and we were very careful, for example, the runway rehab, to kind of tailor that around, break it up in 5-day
Yeah.
periods. We have succession open, and typically the better half of second half of the budget year, we do better on fuel sales. So I would explain avgas sales, and jet sales are good, so. We needed a lot of equipment, we needed some repairs, we did all that in the first half of the season.
Any questions or suggestions as far as these type of presentations in the future, or what you would like to see?
I have a suggestion for it. One thing I'd like to see is if we could get that ahead of time, so it'll help us to
Absolutely.
kind of look at it and have questions proposed ahead of time. Some of us are good at numbers, some of us maybe need a little bit more time to look at it and ask questions so we're more prepared. That would have been the only thing I would have liked. I would have liked to gotten this with our package that we get.
Yeah, I think it would be nice maybe to do that, and also have either a little summary or bullet points pointing the different line item variances.
Yeah, highlight them and just,
And-
you know,
and
and
go
then
through
have an
explanation.
explanation, and then we can, and then it'll help the meeting move a little quicker, but it also we have some questions already answered.
Okay.
Everybody agree with that? Yep. First good idea in the morning, so off to a good start.
And just as far as that depreciation line, I could estimate that throughout the year, even though it's not booked. My whole thing is, in accounting, I've always liked to just put on paper what's actually there and not have estimates in financial statements.
Yeah.
And I
I don't
kinda
mind seeing it because then it prompts the question of, okay, well, what equipment? I mean, John and Steve do a great job on letting us know about things, but if we see something big come through, then we know, hey, a new piece of equipment came in. And, you know, I think a lot of people will come up and ask board members questions. And I really don't feel very special when I don't know the answer to, hey, man, how about that new fire truck? Whoa, new fire truck, and it was just, hey, there was a lot going on, and maybe we missed getting that in the briefing. So it gives us more information too, I think, which is better for everybody involved. So I like having the capital expenditures on there as it goes, and then that way it allows us to ask questions about it, what it is.
Okay. And as far as estimating depreciation,
I mean, the
Either way.
I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. To me, I don't care because it's a non-cash, it's a non-cash item.
I'd lean towards leaving it out until
Yeah.
it's booked.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Anything else?
Any other questions? You can tell I get excited about numbers. I pop right up and you start talking about them.
We're a strange bunch. Thanks a lot, I appreciate it.
All right,
Have a-
thank you, Brian, appreciate it. All right, so now we don't really have any unfinished business that I'm aware of. Okay, so John, you want to come back up for the new business on the action items? Or action item?
That's right. Yeah, this one is, this is about as easy as they come. This is a commercial operating agreement up at Beaufort Executive, and it's for our flight training group up there. And literally, all it is a change in name of owner. So it's the exact same agreement, but since it is under a new name, new individual's name as the owner of the company, this goes back through and gets the new signature by the county administrator. So that's what this is.
Okay, any discussion about it at all? All right, could I have a motion? Jim, Rich, second. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then we have the chairman update. Really, we're just going to go back through committee reports. And I think we need to bring up what John brought up about the advocacy committee. I don't know if that has to be government affairs or advocacy. That's what the discussion's all about. No bad ideas here. Do we have to do a motion for that? To like add a committee? I don't think so. I think I can just add a committee,
because it's all
can't I?
internal.
Yeah, it's all internal. Okay, what I'll just say about it is, does anybody have a problem with adding that committee? Okay, that's the easy question. Let me give you the hard question now.
Who's going to be on?
Who wants to be in charge of that committee? I mean, Rich, if you could be of any help, we would love to have you.
I'll be happy to be.
Okay, there you have it, Rich. You are head of the committee, and
Welcome, man.
there we go. You can choose your people you would like to have on your committee. I do think it's, we do a lot of it for South Carolina Boating and Fishing Alliance. I go up a lot for the boating industry. And it does, as John said, it makes a difference going in and having face-to-face conversations. And, you know, it's not a lot of times about the big things, it's about the little things that all of a sudden, you don't want to give, as I tell my kids when they were applying for jobs, you don't want to give anyone a reason not to pick you. And I think that's what a lot of advocacy is there's no reason not to give them, you know, I know them. And hopefully they don't know the other people that we're up against, because everything's a competition. So I think it's an important thing, and anything I can do to help out, I mean, I will. So, good, so we moved through that. Do we have any committee reports? We got the ARW update, so that takes the pressure off of you, Jim. I think we're still moving, Leslie, we're moving good. You're good with your ambassadors, and you've got more people than we've ever had before, or more potential volunteers.
Yeah, I have potential people that have reached
Okay.
out to me. I have,
Okay,
but we're always advocating for more ambassadors, so I don't want to close it out. Don't, you know, anyone interested, please.
okay. Anything from Hilton Head Improvement Committee?
Yes, one small item, since you're a numbers guy, I just learned that a few minutes ago, and since we're talking about finances today, I brought this up about a year and a half ago about total GA operations at Hilton Head. This is exclusive from ARW, and we kind of tabled it for a while because we thought there was a COVID hump in the numbers. So I've gone back, now that we have another year finished, I'm looking at the numbers again, with the exception of that COVID year, and I noticed on the financial report, FBO revenue and flight school revenue has gone down. From 2021, we had 26,500 GA operations, and after the COVID year in 2023, 25,200, last year 20,800, and so far this year we're starting off with under 3,000 for the first 2 months, when it's run well above that the last couple of years. So it's basically a question based on the comment, do we as a group and as an airport want our airport to grow over time or not? Because compared to the rest of the country right now, it's pretty clear that Hilton Head is having fewer planes land here over the last 5 years.
On the GA side.
On the GA side, I'm talking about. Passenger-wise, I've looked at those numbers too, and the airlines bring in around 120 to 125,000 people a year, and so does GA, but those numbers are going down.
Yeah. And the GA, those operations do they not include the charter flights coming in?
It include, this one does,
Include charter flights?
and the charter flights are up.
Okay.
I mean, you guys get the packet. You can look at the numbers yourselves, because I just want to bring it up as a discussion point for right now. But you guys, in the meantime, can look at the numbers and see what I'm talking about.
The other thing I would suggest to look at is to look at surrounding, because one of the things that'll come back around to look at it for GA is GA tends to be a little bit more price conscious, and to look at the airports around the area that they may choose to land there instead of Hilton Head for whatever reason, which would, the only reason, if you're coming to Hilton Head, the only reason would be cost. So,
Well, yeah, that gets into
but
the
I don't
reasons.
think our operation numbers are up in ARW though either, if I remember from the last one. We're just slightly off. I think we're slightly down.
And I don't know how much of that, I mean, we're talking about getting funding from the FAA. You would know better than this, how much the FAA looks at how many total operations an airport has when they're considering funding and how much. I know the number's not zero, but I don't know how significant it is.
It's more significant when you're dealing with air traffic control, tower improvements and things like that, where they look at total operations. That back when the whole STAR system was being evaluated, and now that's obsolete, but the trigger was 30,000 operations for that. So that's where the full number of operations come into play. As far as AIP funding, that's all based on enplanements. So that's just people getting on the airplane on the commercial side.
That's just on the commercial side.
Trying to build that too, though, Brian.
Yeah, we'll have to keep monitoring and keep us up to date on that. Leslie, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm curious, is there a difference in fuel prices between ARW and Hilton Head?
Oh, my God, yes.
Yes,
Well,
It's
yeah.
enormous.
pretty big difference.
Yeah, and so I would think that would,
But we also have, in fairness, so we have control over that
$3 a
because we
gallon.
own the FBO at ARW, and that FBO is leased to Signature at Hilton Head.
The fuel prices here are $3 a gallon more than at ARW, and that price here is the highest within 300 miles here.
All right. I believe that's hits all of our committees. Okay, and so next, we'll talk about the Government Relations Committee, Rich, at the next meeting. I know, that's the next meeting. So you'll give us all the progress and who's on it, so we'll look forward to that.
I can tell you, Ann's on it.
Ann is on it and other volunteers to be named later. So we have, so let's move on to citizen comment. Do we have any other citizen comment for today? Yeah, is there anyone here for anything specific? You all good? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna look for motion for adjournment. Okay? I'm gonna give it to Leslie. She was the quickest. And I'll give a second. And I saw you move because I have great peripheral vision. So Ann will have the second. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
There you go.